The distress signal. Captain Zarath's mandibles clicked nervously as she reviewed the damage reports flooding her console. The Celestial Harmony, flagship of the Kepler Trading Consortium, drifted helplessly in the void between star systems. What should have been a routine cargo run had turned into a nightmare when pirates from the Crimson Nebula attacked their convoy. "Status report," she commanded, her 4 arms working frantically across multiple control surfaces. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, reported her navigation officer, a tall, blue-skinned Altarian. "Life support is failing in the lower sections. We've lost main propulsion, and our FTL drive is completely offline." Zarath's species, the Vorthak, were known throughout the galaxy for their cautious nature and exceptional trading skills. They had built their reputation over centuries by avoiding conflict and finding peaceful solutions to problems. But now, facing certain death in the cold vacuum of space, even their legendary diplomatic abilities seemed useless. "What about the other ships in our convoy?" she asked, though she already feared the answer. The Prophet's Edge was destroyed completely. The Golden Wing managed to escape into hyperspace, but they were heavily damaged. "We're alone out here, Captain." Through the bridge's main viewport, Zarath could see the wreckage of their companion vessel slowly tumbling through space, its cargo containers split open like ripe fruit. Precious metals, rare crystals, and technological components that represented months of careful negotiations now formed a glittering cloud of debris. The pirates had taken what they could carry and left the rest to drift. It was wasteful, typical of their kind. But what troubled Zarath more was the deliberate nature of the attack. This wasn't random piracy. Someone had known their route, their cargo manifest, and their security arrangements. "Captain," the communications officer called out, "I'm detecting multiple ship signatures approaching from the asteroid field. It looks like the pirates are coming back." Zarath's stomach dropped. Pirates rarely returned to the scene of their crimes unless they intended to eliminate witnesses. Her crew of 47 souls would soon join their colleagues aboard the Prophet's Edge in death. "How long until they reach us?" "Approximately 2 hours at their current speed." "And our weapons?" "The main defensive arrays were damaged in the initial attack. We have perhaps 10% of our original firepower available." Zarath closed her eyes and tried to think. In Vorthak culture, every problem had a solution if one looked hard enough. But sometimes the universe presented situations where no amount of clever thinking could change the outcome. "Send out a general distress signal on all frequencies," she ordered. "Include our position, the nature of our emergency, and the approaching threat. Maybe someone will hear us." Her communications officer's expression was doubtful. "Captain, we're in the Outer Rim. The nearest Galactic Union patrol is at least 3 days away, even if someone receives our signal. They won't arrive in time to help." "Do it anyway," Zarath insisted. "Even if we don't survive, maybe the next convoy will be warned about this pirate activity." The next hour passed slowly. Emergency teams worked desperately to restore life support and seal hull breaches. Engineers attempted to bring the engines back online, knowing that even basic propulsion might give them a chance to reach a nearby asteroid where they could hide. But the Celestial Harmony had taken too much damage. Systems continued to fail one by one, and the approaching pirate fleet grew larger on their sensors. What had initially appeared to be 3 ships was now clearly identified as 7 vessels, including a heavy cruiser that outgunned their damaged trader by a significant margin. "Captain," the communications officer said quietly, "I'm receiving a response to our distress call." Zarath's hope flickered briefly. "From the Galactic Union?" "No, ma'am. The signal is coming from much closer. The responding vessel identifies itself as the human ship Indomitable. They say they're en route to assist." "Humans?" Zarath had heard of the species that had recently joined the galactic community. They came from a world that others classified as a Class 12 death world, whatever that meant. Most species avoided detailed contact with them, considering their home planet too dangerous to visit and their culture too aggressive for comfortable interaction. What's their estimated arrival time? They say 43 minutes, Captain. Zarath did quick mental calculations. The pirates would arrive in approximately 50 minutes. If the humans were telling the truth about their arrival time, there might be a brief window where rescue was possible. How many human ships are responding? The communications officer looked confused as he double-checked his readings. They're saying just one ship, ma'am. The Indomitable. One ship? Zarath's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Do they understand we're facing 7 pirate vessels, including a heavy cruiser? One ship cannot possibly handle that kind of firepower. Should I tell them about the opposition they'll be facing? Yes, immediately. These humans may be brave, but they're not stupid. Once they understand the situation, they'll probably withdraw and call for proper backup. But when the communications officer relayed the information about the pirate fleet, the response from the humans was unexpected. They acknowledge the enemy force composition, he reported, but they're maintaining course and speed. The captain of the Indomitable says, and I quote, 7 pirates, that's it. Hold tight, celestial harmony. The cavalry is coming. Zarath stared at the communications station in bewilderment. Either these humans were completely insane, or they possessed capabilities that defied everything she knew about space combat. A single ship, even a military vessel, simply could not engage 7 pirate ships and hope to survive. As the minutes ticked by, her crew worked frantically to restore whatever systems they could. If the humans managed to create even a brief distraction, perhaps the celestial harmony could limp away to safety. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was better than waiting to die. Contact! The sensor operator called out. Unknown vessel dropping out of hyperspace, bearing 27 Mark IV. Is it the humans? Confirmed. Ship signature matches the Indomitable. Captain, you need to see this. Zarath looked at the main display and felt her breath catch in her throat. The human vessel was unlike anything she had ever seen. Where most galactic starships were sleek and graceful, built for efficiency and speed, this ship looked like it had been designed by someone who expected to fight for every meter of space. The Indomitable was a massive, angular beast of a ship, bristling with weapon turrets and armored plating. Strange protrusions and antenna arrays covered its hull, giving it an almost organic appearance, like some deep space predator evolved for hunting. It was easily 3 times the size of the pirate cruiser and probably 5 times more heavily armed. My ancestors, whispered the navigation officer. What kind of ship is that? Before Zarath could respond, the human vessel was already moving. Instead of taking a defensive position near the damaged trader, the Indomitable accelerated directly toward the approaching pirate fleet. Its weapons systems came online one by one, creating an impressive light show as targeting lasers and sensor arrays activated. Are they insane? Muttered the tactical officer. They're charging straight into 7 ships. Captain, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Indomitable. Audio only. Put it through. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking accented galactic standard with a tone that was somehow both calm and eager. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel, Indomitable. Celestial Harmony. Please maintain your current position and keep your heads down. We'll have this situation resolved momentarily. Captain Chen, Zarath responded quickly. You're facing 7 hostile vessels. Perhaps we should coordinate a tactical withdrawal until additional support arrives. A sound came through the speakers that took Zarath a moment to recognize as human laughter. Captain, I appreciate your concern, but the Earth fleet doesn't withdraw from pirates. Besides, 7 ships isn't much of a challenge. We were hoping for at least a dozen. The transmission ended, leaving Zarath staring at her crew in amazement. The humans seemed to view this desperate situation as barely worth their attention. Either they were incredibly arrogant, or they knew something about space combat that the rest of the galaxy had missed. On the tactical display, the pirate fleet had detected the approaching human ship and was adjusting their formation. The pirates were experienced fighters who had terrorized this region of space for years. They knew how to handle lone vigilantes who thought they could play hero. But as the range closed between the two forces, something extraordinary began to happen. The Indomitable didn't just attack the pirate formation. It tore through it like a hurricane through a field of grain. The human ship's weapons were unlike anything in standard galactic armaments. Instead of the precise, energy-efficient beam weapons favored by most species, the humans seemed to prefer massive projectile cannons that threw chunks of metal at incredible velocities. The sound of their firing, transmitted through the ship's hulls, was like continuous thunder. But it wasn't just the weapons that made the difference. The way the Indomitable moved defied conventional space combat doctrine. Human pilots seemed to have no concept of energy conservation or cautious maneuvering. They flew their massive ship like a fighter craft, spinning and diving through the pirate formation while maintaining a devastating rate of fire. The first pirate vessel, a converted freighter, simply disintegrated under the human weapons. The second tried to flee and was caught by what appeared to be some kind of guided missile that covered the distance between ships in seconds. The third and fourth pirates attempted to coordinate their attack, only to discover that human shields were apparently strong enough to absorb their combined firepower without significant effect. "This is impossible," whispered the tactical officer. "One ship cannot do this." But Zarath was beginning to understand something that made her species' mandibles click with nervous excitement. The humans didn't think of the Indomitable as one ship. They thought of it as a single element of a much larger military force, sent out to handle minor problems like pirate raids. If one human ship could do this, what could a human fleet accomplish? The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in less than 15 minutes. 7 pirate ships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris and a few escape pods broadcasting surrender signals. The Indomitable moved through the wreckage like a shark through a school of fish, efficient and terrifyingly effective. Celestial Harmony, this is Captain Chen. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're dispatching engineering teams to assist with your repairs. Is there anything else you need? Zarath found her voice after several seconds of stunned silence. Captain Chen, that is, how did you... Ma'am, I know this might seem like a big deal to your people, but this is just standard patrol work for us. We had the Indomitable in the area anyway, running a training exercise. Your distress call gave our junior officers a chance to practice their combat procedures. Training exercise? Zarath repeated weakly. Yes, ma'am. Nothing like a real pirate engagement to keep the crew sharp. We'll have your ship running again within a few hours. In the meantime, our medical team will transfer over to check on your injured crew members. As human shuttles began launching from the massive warship, Zarath realized that everything she thought she knew about the galaxy's balance of power had just changed. If this was what humans considered a training exercise, if this was the kind of ship they sent out for routine patrols, then the implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just responded to their distress call. They had demonstrated a level of military capability that would fundamentally alter how every species in the galaxy viewed interstellar conflicts. And this was apparently just the beginning. The human factor. Ambassador Kethvar of the Galactic Union Council had seen many disturbing reports cross his desk during his 40 years of diplomatic service, but nothing quite like the preliminary investigation into what was being called the Kepler incident. He read through the testimonies again, his elongated fingers drumming against the crystalline surface of his workstation. According to Captain Zarath of the Celestial Harmony, A single human vessel had engaged and destroyed 7 pirate ships in approximately 15 minutes. The human crew had then proceeded to completely repair the damaged Vorthak trader using technologies and techniques that their engineers claimed to have never seen before. But what troubled Kethvar most wasn't the impressive display of human military capability. It was the casual manner in which they had treated the entire affair. The humans acted as if devastating a pirate fleet was barely worth mentioning in their duty logs. Sir, his aide, a young Xantharian named Poltek, entered the office carrying an additional datapad. We've received the official report from the Earth Defense Force regarding the incident. Kethvar accepted the pad with growing unease. The human military's bureaucracy was notoriously precise, and their incident reports often contained details that civilian accounts missed. The report's header immediately caught his attention. Routine patrol action, Sector 7G, classification, training exercise completed with live fire, exercise opportunity, training exercise. The humans had classified the destruction of 7 pirate vessels as a training exercise. As he read deeper into the technical specifications, Kethvar's concern transformed into something approaching terror. The Indomitable was not, as he had assumed, one of humanity's primary warships. According to the Earth Defense Force organizational charts, it was classified as a light patrol cruiser assigned to routine border security duties. A light patrol cruiser had single-handedly eliminated a pirate force that would have required at least 3 Galactic Union destroyers working in coordination to defeat. Poltek, he called to his aide, I need you to contact the Earth Embassy. Request a meeting with Admiral Morrison. Tell him it's regarding regional security cooperation. Yes, sir. Should I mention the Kepler incident specifically? No, Kethvar said slowly. I suspect that might not be the best approach. The humans seem to view this as a minor matter. Let's not give them the impression that we're alarmed by their capabilities. But Kethvar was alarmed, deeply alarmed. The Galactic Union had maintained peace for over 2 centuries through a careful balance of military forces among member species. The largest fleets belonged to the Altarians and the Hegemony Collective, each possessing approximately 800 major warships. The Union Navy itself commanded roughly 600 vessels, maintained through contributions from member worlds. According to the intelligence estimates he had seen, Earth's total fleet strength was listed as approximately 400 ships of unknown capability. But if their light patrol cruisers could perform like the Indomitable, then those intelligence estimates were dangerously inadequate. 3 days later, Admiral Harrison Morrison arrived at the Union Council chambers, accompanied by what he described as a small staff. Kethvar had expected perhaps 2 or 3 military attachés. Instead, the humans brought 12 officers representing various branches of their defense forces, along with technical specialists and strategic analysts. Admiral Morrison himself was a compact, gray-haired human who moved with the efficient precision that seemed characteristic of his species. His uniform was covered with ribbons and insignia that Kethvar didn't recognize, but their sheer number suggested extensive combat experience. Ambassador Kethvar, Morrison said as they settled into the council's private meeting chamber. I understand you wanted to discuss regional security. How can the Earth Defense Force assist? Kethvar had prepared carefully for this conversation, but he still felt uncertain about how to proceed. Direct questions might reveal more about Union intelligence capabilities than he intended, while indirect approaches might miss crucial information entirely. Admiral, we've been reviewing recent patrol reports from the Outer Rim sectors. There have been several incidents involving piracy and raiders targeting civilian shipping. The Union Council is concerned about the security implications. Yes, we've noticed an uptick in hostile activity as well, Morrison replied. That's why we've increased our patrol frequency in the affected areas. The Indomitable's recent action should help discourage further pirate operations in Sector 7G. About that incident, Kethvar said carefully. Captain Chen's report mentioned that it was classified as a training exercise. That seems unusual for a combat engagement. Morrison looked genuinely puzzled. Ambassador, I'm not sure I understand your concern. Captain Chen's crew needed live fire practice, and the pirates provided a convenient opportunity. It's standard procedure to classify such activities as training when they serve multiple purposes. But the destruction of 7 hostile vessels was completed well within acceptable parameters for that class of exercise, one of Morrison's staff officers interjected. If anything, the engagement was shorter than optimal for training purposes. Ideally, we would have preferred a larger opposing force to provide more comprehensive combat experience for the junior officers. Kethvar felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had wanted a larger pirate force to fight. Admiral, he continued, perhaps you could help me understand Earth's current fleet deployment in the region. For coordination purposes, of course. Morrison consulted a datapad briefly. Currently, we have the 3rd Patrol Squadron assigned to Outer Rim security. That's 12 light cruisers like the Indomitable, supported by 46 escort vessels and 6 supply ships. Admiral Chang commands the squadron from the heavy cruiser Determination. Heavy cruiser? Kethvar tried to keep his voice level. How does that compare to the Indomitable? Oh, the Determination is roughly 4 times the size and carries about 8 times the firepower. She's designed for serious fleet actions rather than patrol work. Beautiful ship, really. Admiral Chang keeps her crew well trained. The meeting continued for another hour, but Kethvar found it increasingly difficult to concentrate. Every casual comment from the humans revealed capabilities that dwarfed anything the Union had imagined. When Morrison mentioned that the 3rd Patrol Squadron was one of 18 currently deployed beyond Earth's home system, Kethvar nearly choked on his beverage. If each squadron matched the size Morrison had described, then Earth's active fleet was larger than the Union Navy and the 2 largest member fleets combined. But the truly terrifying revelation came when Kethvar asked about Earth's defensive preparations. Well, Morrison said thoughtfully, we maintain the home fleet around Earth itself, obviously. That's about 300 ships under Admiral Thompson's command. Then there are the sector defense forces, the rapid response fleets, the deep patrol squadrons, and the strategic reserve. Strategic reserve? Ships held back for major emergencies. You know, large-scale alien invasions, system-wide rebellions, that sort of thing. We learned during our colonial expansion period that it's important to keep significant forces in reserve for unexpected situations. One of Morrison's technical specialists, a woman with lieutenant's stripes on her collar, added helpfully, the reserve fleet is currently at about 40% of authorized strength. Budget constraints, you know. We're only maintaining 800 ships in ready reserve instead of the planned 2,000. 800 ships in reserve, beyond their active fleets. After the meeting ended and the humans departed with cheerful promises to coordinate more closely on regional security issues, Kethvar sat alone in his office and tried to process what he had learned. Earth's military capabilities weren't just greater than the Union had estimated. They were greater than everyone else's capabilities combined, by a significant margin. But what disturbed him even more was the humans' casual attitude toward their overwhelming advantage. They didn't seem to view themselves as the galaxy's dominant military power. They acted as if their fleet strengths were perfectly normal, as if every civilized species maintained thousands of warships for routine patrol duties. His contemplation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Union intelligence. Ambassador, the intelligence director's image appeared on his secure display. We've just received some disturbing information about human military production capabilities. You need to see this immediately. The intelligence briefing that followed was based on economic analysis rather than direct observation. Union economists had been studying Earth's industrial output and trying to understand how a single planet could support the fleet sizes that were becoming apparent. What they discovered was that Earth's ship production wasn't centered on their homeworld at all. The humans had established massive orbital shipyards around dozens of worlds, many of which weren't even officially colonized yet. They seemed to view uninhabited star systems as potential industrial sites rather than empty space. According to our calculations, the intelligence director explained, Earth's current shipbuilding capacity exceeds the combined output of all Union members by approximately 15 to 1. They could replace their entire active fleet every 3 years if they chose to focus solely on military production. But why? Kethvar asked. Why do they maintain such enormous military forces? Earth has been at peace since joining the galactic community. That's what concerns us, Ambassador. Our analysts believe that humans may be preparing for some kind of conflict that the rest of us aren't aware of. The scale of their military buildup suggests they're anticipating a threat far beyond anything currently known. Kethvar thought about Admiral Morrison's casual mentions of alien invasions and system-wide rebellions. Perhaps the humans weren't building for unknown threats. Perhaps they were building because their history had taught them that overwhelming military superiority was the best guarantee of peace. The thought was both comforting and terrifying. 3 weeks later, reports began arriving from other sectors where human patrol squadrons were active. Pirates and raiders were fleeing human-patrolled space as word spread about the fate of the Sector 7G pirates. Several criminal organizations had apparently decided that easier targets could be found in areas where humans weren't present. But this created a new problem. Displaced pirates were concentrating their activities in sectors patrolled by Union and member species fleets. Areas that had been relatively peaceful were suddenly experiencing increased criminal activity, while human-patrolled regions became virtually crime-free. The message was clear, even if the humans never stated it directly. Space protected by Earth's military was safe space. Everywhere else was significantly less secure. As Kethvar prepared his report for the Union Council, he struggled with how to present his findings. The truth was simple but overwhelming. Humanity possessed military capabilities that could reshape the entire galactic balance of power. They were already reshaping it, simply through routine patrol activities. But the humans didn't seem interested in conquest or political dominance. They appeared genuinely committed to peaceful cooperation and mutual prosperity. Their overwhelming strength was being used to protect trade routes and eliminate criminals, not to threaten other species. The question that kept Kethvar awake at night was simple. What happened if humanity ever decided that peaceful cooperation wasn't working? In his final report to the Council, he wrote, Earth's military capabilities represent a fundamental change in galactic security dynamics. Their commitment to peaceful cooperation should be encouraged and supported through every means available. Under no circumstances should the Union or its members take actions that might cause humanity to view us as threats rather than partners. It wasn't much of a policy recommendation. But given what Kethvar had learned about human fleet strengths, it might be the most important diplomatic advice he ever gave. When Deathworlders Unite Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, humanity's newest and largest warship, watching the tactical display with growing concern. What had started as routine border security operations 6 months ago was rapidly evolving into something much more serious. The Herrick Empire, a militaristic species from the galaxy's outer rim, had apparently decided that humanity's peacekeeping activities represented a threat to their expansion plans. Rather than engaging in diplomatic discussions, they had chosen to test human resolve through increasingly aggressive actions against civilian shipping and Union member worlds. Admiral, reported Captain Martinez, the Sovereign's commanding officer, we're receiving updated intelligence from Fleet Command. The Herrick have assembled what appears to be a major invasion fleet. Current estimates suggest approximately 2,000 ships massing in the Vega Terminus system. Vasquez nodded grimly. The Harak were not pirates or raiders. They were an organized military force with advanced technology and experienced commanders. More importantly, they had apparently studied human tactics and were attempting to counter them through sheer numerical superiority. 2,000 ships was not an insignificant force. It represented the largest hostile fleet that humanity had faced since joining the galactic community. What's the current status of our regional forces? Fifth Fleet is in position near the projected invasion route. Admiral Chen has 18 heavy cruisers, 42 light cruisers, and approximately 100 escort vessels under her command. She's confident that her forces can delay the Harak advance, but a prolonged engagement against 2-to-1 odds would be costly. Vasquez studied the tactical projections, running scenarios in her mind. Fifth Fleet was well-trained and equipped, but even human ships had limits. The Harak had chosen their strategy carefully, betting that humanity wouldn't risk massive casualties for non-human worlds. They were wrong, but their mistake revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature that might prove costly for everyone involved. "Signal Fleet Command," Vasquez ordered. "Tell them I'm recommending implementation of War Plan Omega. Full mobilization authorization requested." Captain Martinez looked startled. "Ma'am, War Plan Omega is designed for major system-wide conflicts. Are we certain the situation requires that level of response?" "Captain, the Harak have made a critical error in judgment. They think they're facing one human fleet. They need to understand that when you threaten humanity's allies, you're not fighting a single squadron or even a single fleet. You're fighting all of us." 12 hours later, the response to Vasquez's request arrived from Earth Command. The authorization was signed by Admiral Thompson himself, along with a brief personal note. "Show them why we build so many ships." War Plan Omega was humanity's doctrine for major fleet actions against peer-level opponents. It had been developed during the colonial expansion period when Earth faced potential conflicts against unknown alien species with advanced technology. The plan's core principle was simple. When humans went to war, they went with overwhelming force. The mobilization began immediately. From shipyards scattered across 50 star systems, humanity's reserve fleets began moving toward the conflict zone. Ships that had been conducting routine training exercises suddenly found themselves assigned to active combat squadrons. Vessels undergoing maintenance in orbital facilities were rushed back to service with emergency repairs. Most impressively, the home fleet around Earth itself began deploying. For the first time since the colonial wars, humanity was committing its primary strategic reserve to an active conflict. Admiral Chen, commanding Fifth Fleet on the front lines, watched her tactical display with fascination as ship signatures began appearing throughout the region. The first reinforcements were the deep patrol squadrons from nearby sectors, adding another 100 ships to her command. Then came the rapid response fleets from Earth's inner colonies, bringing her total force to nearly 500 vessels. But the real surprise came when Admiral Vasquez arrived aboard the Sovereign, followed by the home fleet's advance elements. "Admiral Chen," Vasquez's image appeared on the communications display. "I'm assuming overall command of the operation. Please prepare a full briefing on Harak capabilities and intentions." "Admiral," Chen replied, studying the ship markers that continued to appear on her sensors. "May I ask what our final force composition will be?" "When mobilization is complete, we'll have approximately 4,000 ships in the operational area. The Harak wanted to test our resolve with superior numbers. We're going to show them what superior numbers actually look like." The Harak invasion fleet was discovered 3 days later by human reconnaissance drones. Admiral Thekmar, the Harak fleet commander, had positioned his forces in what he believed was a strategically advantageous formation near the edge of Union space. His plan was straightforward: strike quickly at several lightly defended human positions, force a decisive engagement, and demonstrate that humanity's military reputation was based more on propaganda than capability. The first indication that his intelligence estimates were seriously flawed came when his sensor operators detected the human fleet moving to intercept. "Sir," his tactical coordinator reported, "I'm reading approximately 4,000 human ships approaching our position." 4,000? Tekmar's crest feathers flattened against his skull in disbelief. "Check your sensors. That reading must be incorrect." "Confirmed, sir. 4,037 vessels, ranging from escort-class ships to vessels that appear larger than anything in our database." Tekmar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His intelligence reports had suggested that humanity maintained perhaps 1,000 ships total across their entire space. The force approaching his fleet was 4 times larger than Earth's supposed entire navy. "Communications!" he barked. "Contact the home fleet immediately. We need reinforcements." But even as his communications officer began transmitting desperate requests for additional ships, Tekmar realized that the fundamental assumptions behind his invasion plan were fatally flawed. The Herak Empire had spent months planning to defeat what they believed was a minor human border force. Instead, they were facing the largest military armada that had been assembled in galactic history. Admiral Vasquez, aboard the Sovereign at the head of the human formation, opened communications with the Herak fleet. "Admiral Tekmar," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the void between the two fleets. "This is Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of Galactic Union territorial sovereignty and have committed acts of aggression against civilian populations under our protection." "Admiral Vasquez," Tekmar replied, trying to keep his voice steady, "perhaps there has been some misunderstanding. The Herak Empire seeks only to establish proper territorial boundaries in this region." "The misunderstanding, Admiral, is your assumption that humanity would respond to aggression with anything less than our full capabilities. You wanted to test our resolve. Consider it tested." Through the bridge's viewports, the Herak crew could see the human fleet spreading out across space like an endless field of stars. Ships stretched beyond the horizon in every direction, their running lights creating a constellation of threat that dwarfed anything the Herak had imagined possible. "You have 2 options," Vasquez continued. "Withdraw your forces immediately and cease all hostile activities against Union member worlds, or we will remove your fleet from this region by force. You have 1 hour to decide." Tekmar consulted quickly with his staff officers, but the choice was obvious. Even if every shot from his fleet found its target, they could not hope to destroy even half of the human ships before being overwhelmed. The numerical advantage that had seemed so decisive was now revealed as pathetically inadequate. "Admiral Vasquez," he transmitted, "the Herak fleet will withdraw immediately. We had not realized the extent of human military capabilities." "Most species don't," Vasquez replied matter-of-factly. "We prefer to keep our neighbors focused on peaceful cooperation rather than military competition. But when someone threatens our allies, they discover why we build so many ships." The Herak withdrawal was conducted with remarkable efficiency. Within 6 hours, Tekmar's entire invasion fleet had disappeared into hyperspace, heading back toward their own territory at maximum speed. Several Herak scout ships were detected conducting long-range observations of the human fleet for days afterward, apparently trying to understand what they had encountered. But the real impact of the confrontation wasn't the Herak retreat. It was the message that humanity had sent to every species in the galaxy. Ambassador Kethvar, observing the human fleet from a Union monitoring station, watched 4,000 warships conducting formation exercises in what had nearly become a battlefield. The ships moved with perfect coordination, their commanders clearly accustomed to operating in groups of this size. "How many ships do they have?" he wondered aloud. The Union intelligence analyst assigned to his staff consulted her latest reports. According to our most recent estimates, Ambassador, what we're seeing here represents approximately 60% of Earth's active fleet strength. The remainder are maintaining their normal patrol and security assignments. 60%. The most powerful military force in galactic history was less than two-thirds of humanity's active navy. As reports of the confrontation spread throughout the galaxy, the political implications became clear. No single species, and perhaps no alliance of species, could challenge humanity's military dominance. The balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for centuries was now completely obsolete. But rather than using their overwhelming advantage for conquest or political control, the humans did something that surprised everyone. They went home. Within 2 weeks, the massive fleet had dispersed back to its normal assignments. Patrol squadrons returned to their routine security duties. The home fleet resumed its defensive positions around Earth. The reserve ships went back to their bases and shipyards as if nothing significant had happened. Admiral Vasquez's final report to Earth Command was remarkably brief. Hostile forces deterred, regional security restored. Fleet returning to normal operational status. To humanity, mobilizing 4,000 ships for a potential conflict was simply good military procedure. To everyone else, it was a demonstration of power that would influence galactic politics for generations to come. Captain Zarath, whose distress call had started this chain of events, received a personal message from Admiral Chen 3 months later. "Captain," the recorded message said, "I wanted to thank you for your report on the Kepler incident. Your observations helped Fleet Command understand that other species might not fully appreciate our capabilities. We've implemented new protocols to better coordinate with our allies during security operations." "In the future," Chen continued, "when human ships respond to distress calls, we'll make sure to explain our procedures more clearly. We don't want our friends to worry unnecessarily about the scale of our response. As far as we're concerned, sending adequate help is simply the right thing to do. Adequate help. 4,000 warships to deter 2,000. Zarath saved the message and filed it under important reminders about human nature. Someday, she thought, her children's children might need to understand why it was so important to stay on humanity's good side. After all, when Deathworlders decided to help, they didn't send small aid. They sent everything they had.